Fan fiction / speculative Y&R story, not an official episode recap. Genoa City was already buzzing with secrets, but nobody was prepared for the awkward discovery that would put Holden Novak directly in the middle of Nate Hastings and Stephanie Simmons' increasingly complicated relationship. Nate and Stephanie have been spending more time together, and recent storylines have clearly pushed them closer. Stephanie has supported Nate through his medical struggles, while Nate has become an important person in her life. Official episode information has also established that Stephanie has turned to Nate for help, and that the two have shared secrets and important conversations. But there is one person who may not be ready to see them become something more. Holden. As Stephanie's son, Holden has already experienced a whirlwind of family revelations. He recently learned that Malcolm Winters was his biological father, turning his entire understanding of his family upside down. Now, another surprise may be waiting. And this time, it could involve Nate. The unexpected morning. The morning began quietly at the Abbott estate. Holden had barely slept. He had spent most of the night thinking about everything that had happened since he returned to Genoa City. His life had changed so quickly that sometimes he wondered whether he had actually caught up with all the revelations. His mother, Stephanie, had returned to his life. He had discovered the truth about Malcolm. He had watched old family wounds reopen. And now there was Nate. Holden didn't dislike Nate. In fact, he respected him. That was precisely why the situation bothered him. Nate was someone Holden trusted. He was intelligent, compassionate, and, despite everything that had happened within the Winters family, someone who continued trying to do the right thing. But Holden had begun noticing something. Whenever Nate's name came up, Stephanie's expression changed. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't obvious, but Holden noticed. He always had. That morning, Holden decided he needed to talk to his mother. He grabbed his jacket and headed toward the door. Then he stopped. His phone buzzed. A message from Stephanie. "Don't come to the house just yet. I'm busy. I'll call you later." Holden stared at the message. Busy? He frowned. Stephanie wasn't usually mysterious with him. Something was different, and Holden intended to find out what. Meanwhile, at Crimson Lights, Stephanie sat across from Nate, trying not to smile. Nate had just finished explaining the latest developments surrounding his medical future. Stephanie had been supporting him through the entire ordeal. She had helped arrange the specialist who could potentially give Nate another chance at returning to the operating room. Recent spoiler coverage has emphasized how important Stephanie has become to Nate during this period. "You don't have to thank me," Stephanie told him. "I know." "Then why are you looking at me like that?" "Because I'm trying to figure out how I got lucky enough to have you in my corner." Stephanie smiled. "You didn't get lucky. You got stubborn." Nate laughed. "That's fair." For a moment, neither said anything. There was something between them now. Neither wanted to name it. Neither wanted to admit that their conversations had become longer, their meetings more frequent, and their connection more personal. Nate finally broke the silence. "What are you doing tonight?" Stephanie raised an eyebrow. "Why? I thought I could cook for you." "You? I can cook." "That's not what I heard." Nate laughed. "Then you've been listening to the wrong people." Stephanie smiled. "Maybe I'll take my chances." Neither of them noticed Holden walking through the doorway. Holden walks. Holden had gone to Crimson Lights because he wanted coffee before confronting his mother. He wasn't expecting to see her, and he definitely wasn't expecting to see her sitting across from Nate, together, laughing. The sight stopped him cold. Holden stared. Nate looked up first. His smile disappeared. Stephanie slowly turned. The expression on her face told Holden everything. "Mom?" Stephanie stood. "Holden." There was an uncomfortable silence. Holden looked from his mother to Nate, then back to his mother. "What exactly is going on?" Stephanie swallowed. "Nothing is going on." Holden gave her a skeptical look. "Really?" Nate stood. Holden, it's not what you think. Then tell me what it is. Nate glanced at Stephanie. She didn't answer. That made Holden even more suspicious. You two have been spending a lot of time together, Holden said. Stephanie tried to remain calm. We're friends. Friends? Yes. Holden looked at Nate. Is that what you call it? Nate didn't respond immediately, and that silence said more than words could have. Holden's eyes widened. Oh. Stephanie stepped toward him. Holden, please. No, it's okay. He forced a smile. I just didn't realize. Didn't realize what? That you were dating. Stephanie immediately shook her head. We're not dating. Nate looked at her. Stephanie noticed. Holden noticed too. And suddenly the entire situation became even more complicated. A son's concern. Holden pulled his mother aside. Are you okay? Stephanie looked surprised. Of course. Because you've been through a lot. So have you. This isn't about me. It is always about you with me. Holden sighed. Mom, I just don't want you getting hurt. Stephanie's expression softened. Nate isn't trying to hurt me. How do you know? Because I know him. Holden looked back at Nate. And you trust him? Yes. That answer came instantly. Holden noticed. He wasn't sure whether that made him feel better or worse. Then I guess I should be happy for you. Stephanie reached for his hand. You don't have to decide anything today. Holden nodded. I'm not angry. You're shocked. Very. Stephanie laughed softly. Fair enough. But Holden wasn't telling her everything. There was something else bothering him. Nate wasn't just some random man. He was connected to the Winters family. He was connected to Holden's newly discovered biological family. And now he was becoming connected to Stephanie in an entirely different way. Holden couldn't help wondering what that would mean. Nate's confession. Later, Nate found Holden alone outside. Can we talk? Holden nodded. Nate approached. I didn't plan for you to find out like that. Find out what? Nate smiled. You know. Do I? Nate sighed. Your mother and I have gotten close. Holden crossed his arms. I noticed. I care about her. That statement caught Holden off guard. You care about her? Yes. How much? Nate looked directly at him. Enough to take this seriously. Holden studied his face. Nate wasn't joking. He wasn't playing games, and that mattered. Holden finally relaxed. Then don't hurt her. I won't. Because she's been through enough. I know. Holden nodded. Good. Then Nate added something unexpected. Your mother isn't the only one who's been through a lot. Holden looked at him. You mean me? I mean all of us. Nate explained that the Winters family had been changing rapidly. Malcolm's return had reopened old wounds. Holden's identity had been transformed, and everyone was still trying to understand what came next. Holden sighed. Sometimes I feel like I walked into a family history that was already written. Nate smiled. You don't have to live according to someone else's story. Holden considered that. Maybe Nate was right. Stephanie's secret. That evening, Stephanie returned home. Holden was waiting. Can we talk? Stephanie nodded. Of course. Holden sat across from her. I've been thinking. That's dangerous. He laughed. Very funny. Then his expression became serious. Are you happy? Stephanie didn't answer immediately. She knew exactly what he was asking. Yes. With Nate? Stephanie nodded. I think I could be. Holden looked down. Then I'm happy for you. Stephanie's eyes softened. You mean that? I do. But? There is always a but. Stephanie smiled. Holden continued. I just don't want you rushing into anything because you've spent so much time apart from everyone. Stephanie understood. You're worried that I'm lonely. Maybe. Holden, I'm not choosing Nate because I'm lonely. Then why? Stephanie smiled. Because he makes me feel like myself. That answer stayed with Holden. For years, he had thought of his mother as someone carrying the weight of old memories. Now she seemed lighter, happier, and perhaps Nate had something to do with it. The unexpected interruption. Just as their conversation became more comfortable, the doorbell rang. Stephanie looked surprised. I wasn't expecting anyone. Holden stood. I'll get it. He opened the door. Nate was standing outside. Holden stared. You again? Nate smiled. I brought dinner. Holden laughed. Of course you did. Stephanie appeared behind him. Nate. I promised I'd cook. Holden stepped aside. Come in. Nate entered. For a moment, the three of them stood together. It was awkward. Then Holden smiled. Okay. Stephanie looked at him. Okay, what? I get it now. Nate raised an eyebrow. Get what? Holden shrugged. You two. Stephanie laughed. Nate smiled. And for the first time, Holden didn't feel threatened by the idea. Maybe this wasn't about losing his mother. Maybe it was about seeing her find something new. But someone else is watching. Across Genoa City, however, someone was not happy. Audra Charles had heard enough rumors to become suspicious. She knew Holden had once been involved in a complicated relationship with her. She also knew Nate's name had become increasingly important in Stephanie's world, and she wasn't convinced that the situation would remain peaceful. Audra picked up her phone. I wonder how long this little family arrangement will last. She wasn't necessarily planning to interfere, not yet. But Audra had never been known for simply watching events unfold. If Holden and Stephanie were becoming closer to Nate, Audra wondered whether she could use that connection to her advantage. And she knew one thing. Secrets were valuable in Genoa City. Holden makes a decision. The next morning, Holden met Nate. I've been thinking about yesterday. Nate nodded. So have I. Holden smiled. I owe you an apology. For what? I assumed the worst. You had every right to be surprised. I was. Nate laughed. But I think you're good for my mother. Nate's expression changed. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Nate smiled. Why? Because if you hurt her, we'll have another conversation. Nate nodded. Understood. The two men shook hands. Neither knew that someone was watching them from across the street, and neither knew that their new understanding would soon be tested. The big twist. That afternoon, Stephanie received a mysterious message. You don't know the whole truth about Nate. She stared at the screen. Her smile disappeared. Who had sent it, and what did they mean? Stephanie immediately called Holden. He answered. Mom, we need to talk. About Nate? Stephanie paused. How did you know? Because something feels wrong. Stephanie looked at the message again. Someone is trying to convince me that Nate has been hiding something. Holden's expression hardened. What kind of something? I don't know. Then we'll find out. Stephanie nodded. For the first time, she wondered whether Holden's earlier concern had been justified. Maybe Nate wasn't the only person with secrets. Maybe someone was deliberately trying to destroy their growing relationship. And in Genoa City, that was often how the biggest disasters began. Nate faces questions. Stephanie confronted Nate that evening. Did you hide something from me? Nate looked confused. What? I received a message. She showed him the phone. Nate read it. His expression changed. I don't know who sent this. Do you have any idea why someone would? Nate shook his head. Stephanie, I've been honest with you. Completely? Yes. She stared at him. Nate took a breath. There are things about my past I'm not proud of. I know. But I haven't lied to you about anything important. Stephanie believed him. At least she wanted to. Then Holden walked into the room. "What's happening?" Stephanie looked at him. "Someone is trying to turn us against Nate." Holden looked at Nate. "Who?" Nobody knew, but Holden had a theory. "Maybe we should stop reacting and start investigating." Nate nodded. "Agreed." Stephanie looked at both men. For the first time, she realized that whatever happened next, she wasn't facing it alone. A family beginning. Days later, the tension began to ease. Holden found himself spending more time with Nate. They talked about medicine, family, and the strange twists that had brought them together. Nate also understood something important. Holden wasn't simply Stephanie's son. He was Malcolm's son. He was part of the Winters family, and that meant their lives were going to remain connected. Meanwhile, Stephanie watched them from a distance. She smiled. Maybe this was exactly what she had hoped for. A family, not a perfect one, not a simple one, but a family that could survive secrets and surprises. Then Nate turned toward Stephanie. "Ready?" She nodded. "Always." Holden smiled. "Okay, you two." Stephanie laughed. "What?" "You really are becoming a thing." Nate and Stephanie exchanged a look. Neither denied it this time. And Holden realized something. The shock of finding his mother and Nate together had been only the beginning. Because if Stephanie and Nate really became a couple, the Winters family would be changed forever, and Genoa City had no idea what was coming next. Final spoiler twist. The biggest question now isn't whether Holden approves of Nate and Stephanie. He does. The bigger question is whether someone from their past will destroy the fragile peace they have created. Stephanie has already lived through decades of secrets. Holden has only recently learned the truth about his biological father. Nate is trying to rebuild his medical career and repair damaged family relationships. And now all three are connected. That combination is almost guaranteed to produce drama. The next chapter could begin with Holden discovering another secret message, or Stephanie could uncover information that changes how she sees Nate. Perhaps Audra knows more than she's admitting. Perhaps someone wants Holden to distrust Nate. Or perhaps the real secret isn't about Nate at all. Maybe it's about Stephanie's past. Whatever happens, one thing is certain. Holden's unexpected discovery has changed everything. He walked into a room expecting to find his mother alone. Instead, he found Stephanie and Nate together. And that single moment may become the beginning of one of Genoa City's biggest new family dramas. For Holden, the shock is over. Now comes the question that matters most.